Today we will be reading this book called Pink and Say by author Patricia Polacco. This book is classified as a historical fiction. Can anyone tell me what historical fiction means? Historical fiction means that the story written about in this book is not real. However, some of the events and the time period are real. For instance, this book is about two Union soldiers that meet and is set during the Civil War. Let's look at some of the pictures to see if we can kind of get a broader sense of what this book will be about. Here's the front cover, and here's the back. Does anyone think you can make a guess by just looking at the pictures? Okay, let's read to find out what events will transpire after these two Union soldiers meet. When Sheldon Russell Curtis told this story to his daughter, Rosa, she kept every word in her heart and was to retell it many times over in her long lifetime. Sheldon had been injured in a fierce battle and was left for dead in a muddy, blood-soaked pasture somewhere in Georgia. He was a mere lad of 15. He lay there for 2 days by his reckoning, only to slip into unconsciousness and fever. He was rescued from this field by another lad who had also been separated from his company. I will tell it in his own words as nearly as I can. I watched the sun edge toward the center of the sky above me. I was hurt real bad. For almost a year I'd been in this man's war, the war between the states. Being just a lad, I was wishing I was home. My leg burned and was angry from the lead ball that was lodged in just above my knee. I felt sleepy and everything would go black. Then I'd wake up again. I wanted to go back to our farm in Ohio, and sometimes, when I'd fall into one of them strange sleeps, I'd be there with my ma, tasting baking powder biscuits fresh out of her wood stove. Then I heard a voice. For a moment I thought I was fever dreaming, but then I felt strong hands touch my brow, splash water in my face. Being here, boy, means you gotta be dead, the voice said as he gave me a drink from his kit. Where you hit, 'cause if it's a belly hit, I gotta leave you here, he said. I'd never seen a man like him so close before. His skin was the color of polished mahogany. He was flying Union colors like me. My age, maybe. His voice was soothing and his help was good. Hit in the leg, I told him. Not bad if it don't go green. Can you put weight on it? He asked as he pulled me onto my feet. We gotta keep moving. If we stay in one spot, marauders will find us. They're riding dragon looking for wounded. Can anyone tell me what they know, what marauders are, and what they do? So marauders go around looking for people to attack, which is why this boy wants to move the wounded one so they aren't found. Next thing I remember was collapsing in a heap on the ground and rocking with the pain in my leg. Everything started to go black. Then I remember him pulling me up on his back. I heard him say, Lord have mercy, child. You as bad off as I am. I'll tote you. I can't rightly leave you here. I remember being pulled and carried and stumbling. I remember hard branches snapping back in my face and mouths full of dirt as we hit the ground to keep from being seen. I remember slogging through streams, hauling up small bluffs, and belly crawling through dry fields. I remember these things in half sleep-like, but I do remember being carried for a powerful long way. Then fever must have took me good, 'cause I could feel a cool, sweet-smelling quilt next to my face. Soft, gentle, warm hands were stroking my head with a cool, wet rag cloth. Look at that mornin' that's comin', a woman's voice said as she spooned oat porridge into me. Do your mamma know what a beautiful baby boy she has? Where am I? Is this heaven? I asked. She tossed her head and laughed. No, child, Pincus brung you home to me. Don't you remember? The mahogany child, I thought. Both you children been on the run for days, and a miracle of God Almighty brung you both here. Yes, indeed, child, a miracle. I remember thinkin', could this war have been so close to this lad's home? I couldn't imagine having a war right in his backyard. I looked over and saw him looking out the window. Guess you don't remember much, he said. I'm Pincus A. Lee. Fought with the 48 Colored. Found you after I got lost from my company. My name is Sheldon. Sheldon Curtis, I said weakly. This is my mother. Sweet Momo Bay, he said as she smiled at me. Lord, Lord, I never thought I'd see my dear baby boy again, she said as she hugged him. I began getting along, though, Pincus. Warm things got left in the big house when the family left. Dry goods, too. The rest I've been getting from the woods. There's a fresh water spring. Still have some chickens, even got an old cow out back that still gives. Then you have been all alone here? Pincus asked his mother. Where is everybody? Your daddy runned off to fight a month ago. All the hands and their children runned off out of harm's way. But I stayed. I prayed to the Lord every day. My prayers were surely answered, 'cause he brought my baby back here to stay, she said as her face beamed. You ain't never gonna leave your mama again, are you, child? She said softly. Pincus looked troubled and didn't answer. I'm going down to the stream and pawn these clothes off yours, she said as she readied us to leave us. If you hear marauders, come and get for the root cellar door. Stay down there till they gone. That's what I've been doing. Marauders here? Pincus said with an alarm. They've seen there's nothing here for them, child. Nothing. As soon as she left us, Pincus sank into my bedside. Sheldon boy, he whispered, as soon as you heal up, we gotta get away from here. We are putting Momo Bay in great danger by being here, if they come and find that she's been holding troopers. Then his voice trailed off. We gotta get back to our outfits if we can find 'em. You mean back to the war? I asked. I must have gone pale as he went on to say, It's the only way, ain't it? Then he looked at me. Sheldon, you all right? You look bothered, he said, as he eased me back. You can call me Say, I said. Everybody in my family calls me Say, not Sheldon. I 'spect your family now. I 'spect you're my family now. Near enough, Say, near enough, he said as he chucked the blanket under my feet. You can call me Pink, he said softly as he smiled. For the next week, Momo Bay fed us both up good. Raw milk and cornbread never tasted so good. In all my born days, it were the first time in months my vitals didn't have any mealy worms in it. She saw to it that I tried to walk a little every day, so that mean-looking leg don't go stiff on you and cripple up, she said. This place wasn't that much different from our farmhouse in Ohio. More poor, maybe, but it smelled the same, like pine boards and good cookin'. A mess o' beans with a salt pork, corn, bread, greens, and onions. When we slept, she sat near us, stoked the fire, and watched over us. Never thought I'd feel safe enough to sleep deep again. My mother and Kylo, my father, jumped the broom on this very spot, Pink said as he walked me on my first day outdoors. And that there was the master's house, Master Ailey. Pink spoke quietly as he helped me along. How come you have his last name? I asked. Boy, when you own, you ain't got no name of your own. Even Kylo had to take that name. What does Pink mean right here when he's talking about a master? Right, this means that Pink was a slave and he was previously owned before going into the war. As we rested under the willow tree, Pink asked me about my family back home. Got one brother still at home to help run the place for Pa, I answered. What was your outfit again? Pink asked. He asked me before. Ohio 24th. I carried the staff. Wasn't supposed to carry a gun, but then so many died. Even us boys had to carry so many after we're slaughtered like hogs. At least you got to carry. In the 48th, we couldn't have guns at first. We fought with sticks and hammers and sledges. Can you imagine not trusting us with our own fight? I couldn't imagine such a thing. Then when they did finally give us muskets, they were from the Mexican-American War. Those muskets jammed and misfired. Then how in God's name can you want to go back, I asked. 'Cause it's my fight, say. Ain't it yours too? If we don't fight, then who will? I had no answer for him, but God forgive me, I didn't want to ever go back. Okay. Can anyone tell me what they think might happen next? Does anyone think that Pink and Say will stay with Momo Bay, or do you think that they will go off and fight? Okay, let's keep reading to find out. After a few more days, I could walk a little steadier, but still needed help. Pink took me out by the big house and walked me through it. Weren't much left of it, really. It was mostly burned out. Master A. Lee had a library full of books right here, he said. He taught me to read, even though it was against the law. He must have been a good man, I said. More bad than good, say. Sometimes I think he just liked being read to. There was this book of poetry, say, that was this thick. Every night I'd read out loud to him from that book. I blessed this house because of all those beautiful books, but I cursed it too, for what it stood for. We walked a bit further. To be born a slave is a heap o' trouble, say, but after Ali taught me to read, even though he owned my person, I knew that nobody ever could really own me. You feel hot, Pink, I said. Lord, I think you're as sick as I me. Let me fetch you back to the house. I'll be fine, boy, just a little tired, that's all. I'll be ready to fight, though. I'll be ready to fight. That night after we ate, Momo Bay came back to the table with a worn old Bible. She was so happy. My heart ached at the thought of telling her we'd be leaving soon. Master Ali showed him how paper talks. Show him Pink, she said. He took out a pair of spectacles from his pocket and opened the Bible to the Psalms of David and started to read. His voice was steady and had such wonder. Just hearing them words made pictures come into my head. I surely do wish I could read, I announced to them without thinking. Then Pink saw I was ashamed. He took my hand. I'll teach you, say. Some one day I'll teach you. I could feel my face flushing. Then I spoke up. I've done something important. I announced, Of course you have, child, of course you have, his mother said. I touched Mr. Lincoln's hand. It were near Washington. We were quartered there just before Bull Run. The president himself were shaking everyone's hand, and I just put my hand right out. And he took it? Pink asked. Yup, he took it, I answered. Now there's a sign, ain't it? He said, smiling broadly. Touch my hand, Pink. Now you can say you've touched the hand that shook the hand of Abraham Lincoln. Next best thing to touching him, Momo Bay said in wonder. What are you all thinking so far about this story? What are your feelings towards the characters and their actions? Let's keep reading. Most of the next day, Pink was studying an old map. Marauders don't fan out further than 30 miles or so from their camps. If they come here, then their units must be close. We gotta get south of the river. See here, say? That's where my troops were headed. We can meet with them about here, I figure. Meet up with who? You ain't leaving, his mother's voice caught as she came up on us. Now, my mother, you knew we couldn't stay here. You had to know that, he said as he tried to calm her. No, no, my babies, my dear babies, she cried. She was inconsolable for a time. Then she sat still and feared as she just listened. Mother, this war has to be won, or the sickness that has taken this land will never stop. Pink always called slavery the sickness when he talked. We have to go. He knelt at her feet. By the look that came into her eyes, she knew that this day was coming. I could feel my breathing catch. My chest was heavy. My hands were sweating. I felt sick at my stomach. I knew that I had to tell Pink something. I just didn't know how. Okay, so that's where we will be stopping. What did you think of the story up to the point where we got? Based on what you know of Pink, do you think he will actually go back to the war? What is your evidence to support that claim?